first business network for the Dreams on the North. It's great to have all of you here that have come, and we really appreciate you coming this morning. It's an actual privilege for us to be doing these business breakfasts. We'll be doing them from here on in, probably once every couple of months or so. At this stage, this will be the first and last one for this year, only because, of course, the end of this year is coming up very, very fast, isn't it? We will be doing one in late January, probably the second last Saturday in January, so if you can kind of book that into your, I don't know exactly what that date was now that I've said that. Thank you, Tony, let us know. The second last Saturday in January. And there's part reason for that is that, which is the 19th, thank you, the 19th of January, so put that in your diaries.
So 2014.
In 2014, correct. Go to the top of the class, but don't take your books because you won't be there long. So 19th of January 2014, so that's when we will be having our next one. We'll look to have either 4 to 6 breakfasts next year. One of those will be an event of some sort. One of the things that I really believe that, as far as what the Bible talks about in relation to this, is that Jesus actually said, "Do business till I come." In other words, it says occupy in one of the other translations, but it talks about doing business and doing business well. And I believe that we're meant to do business well. Are you in agreement with me?
Yeah.
So I believe that we're meant to be successful and significant in all that, probably more significant even than successful in that sense. But nevertheless, it's a great opportunity for us to get together. It's a network to talk about what we do, and how we do it, why we do it, and there's always a why. I think the why is more important than anything else when we look at what we do in business. No matter who it is, no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing, the why is extremely important. And why we're here this morning is why I've segued into that. Why we're here this morning, we, as we said, and we'll endeavour to do this all the way through next year as well, is to not be charging for people to come to this, but to actually put towards projects that we're aiming towards helping people with. And our first project that we're taking up as a business network in here, excuse me, is to actually, and you saw this on the brochures that were given to you as well, to donate towards some push bikes for the orphanage in Thailand. Phil and Juanita Honan, we've known them for many, many years. Many of us know them directly, personally. Some of us don't, but I can vouch for the fact that they've been doing a tremendous work for these kids. And many of these children that they've got now are now growing up to the age, well, they've taken them on as babies, they're now up to the age of 9, 10, 11, 12. And as of next year, was it February next year, Tony and Terry will be actually heading over to Thailand. And what they will be doing is they'll be taking over our donations to them as such. And what they'll be doing is buying push bikes for the kids. What they can do is apparently they can buy push bikes, believe it or not, they're buying from China. But they're buying push bikes for them, and I think it's $35, I think Tony has said, and 50 for the...
40 and 50.
$40 for the smaller, or the larger, isn't it? 40 for the larger and 50 for the smaller push bikes, for the littler ones. So we're just looking to raise probably up to around the $500 mark, something like that. I think that's kind of where our aim is, our goal is. And I think it's very exciting just to do something like that, just to be a blessing to these kids. We're doing a lot, as some of you will know, we're doing a lot with things in our nation here, within the schools and foster children and all sorts of stuff. We got to meet with some of those during the week. It was a fantastic opportunity to do so. I got to meet with some of these 12 to 15-year-old kids that we're actually helping to feed. We're feeding them breakfast every day of the week with all sorts of stuff, and got to meet these kids, and they were rapt that we were giving them Oreos.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, the Oreo. Oh, you're the Oreo people. It was kind of like that, so it was quite funny. But nevertheless, very, very excited that we were there. We had a great chat with these kids talking about their passions in life. So we as an organisation, as a whole, we're doing that to really be a blessing at home. And of course, this is also for those things abroad as well. So with all that being said, I've asked Steve just to grab one of these buckets that we've got here. What you can do at your leisure is just, we're going to put one on each table if you don't mind, Steve. At your leisure, if you want to just pop something into there. I think I've got something from somebody who couldn't be here this morning, so I'll just pop those in. Theirs in, and we'll put ours in later. But just put that in there as you wish, as we go through the rest of the morning. And this is towards the these great kids that we'll be blessing. And of course, we get lots of photos and things from the orphanage as well. All the things they've been doing, as I said, I've been doing for a long time. Very much reputable in all they're doing. Alrighty, so you're not here to see me this morning, as good looking as I am, really. But you are actually here to hear these people. So I'd like to introduce you, Stuart and Stephanie. And the good looking one is Stephanie. It's okay, he'll have a go at me in a bit anyway. I'm going to grab a seat because I'm actually just going to be, we're going to ask a couple of questions to start with, and these guys have got some microphones, so we're actually webcasting this as well. We're actually going to be putting this on our website, dreamcenternorth.com.au. As of later on today, this will actually be on the website, so thank you to Andrew who's come along to do that for us. Thank you, mate. Much appreciated. And while we're thanking people, thank you to Sue, who has had a lot to do with this morning and getting things organised. So let's just give Sue a big hand. Really appreciate all that's been done. Thank you so much. So Stuart and Stephanie, I've known for probably 25, 30 years. Yeah, that'd be right. Yes, a long time.
It's only for everyone.
I know you're just a young, very, very young, just like 10-year-old or something. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so moving on. These guys have been, for me personally, have been the model of consistency in what they do in life, in business, and in just the way they live their lives out through, as Stuart likes to call it, the business manual, and or the best business manual. And but these guys have also done some very significant things in business and really learned a lot of success principles, just because, I guess, in so many ways, trial and error and all sorts of things that you've gone through. But nevertheless, there's a lot of questions I'm sure you'll want to ask as we go through this morning. We're going to have a panel kind of set up here in a few moments after we've gone through, an initial sort of getting to know them. But the idea being this morning is that if you do have questions as they come up, raise your hand, we'll slap it down, and then we'll let you ask your questions. But I actually got prompted on some questions here this morning as well, so I best use these questions that you've given to me. Why am I so good looking? So Stuart, what was that?
You were just unfortunate.
I know, I was asking you. So we got some questions this morning, and I will ask these questions. This is a leading question, no doubt. So Stuart, let me just start with you initially, and then we'll get to you, Stephanie, because beauty last or something. Anyway, save the best to last. That's it. You left Scotland as a young teenager. Were you sad to leave?
I was actually delighted to leave. The little town I came from, they had a beauty competition, and for 3 years in a row, nobody won. And when I went back, I'm not going to believe this, I went back there at 20, I was back there studying when I was at sea. I went back to study for one of my certificates, and a few of my mates said, let's go to the dancing up in Glasgow. And one of the reasons I went to see I couldn't dance. I still can't dance. That's why she loves me. Anyway, so these mad mates took us to this old-fashioned dancing like foxtrot, and with they call it Mr. Cayley. And of course, all my mad mates all of a sudden disappeared, and I was left there. And of course, I'm sitting there, and it was a woman, lady's choice, and this giant of a woman came up towards me, and when people, I was trying to look away. not make eye contact, but I could see her coming straight for me. And she had unfortunate looks. And she stood right in front of me. She was about 6'6", and she said, "You want a boogie?" I said, "No thank you, I've got some in my hanky already." But she grabbed me by the scruff of the neck and pulled me up and made me dance. And of course, to the delight of my mates who were watching this. And of course, one thing that small guys, not vertically challenged guys, don't like dancing with much taller women. So anyway, Next question. No, I was happy to leave.
Okay, the Scots are supposed to be stingy. Is this true?
Let me $20 till next Tuesday and I'll prove it. No, the Scots, we are a very generous race. You know, we are very generous. Glenys is nodding her head. She's from a Scottish family, so very generous. But we're not, you know, the English like to spread that rumor. My wife's English, you can ask that question.
English.
There's a few English people here. I'll put your hand up if you're English. Oh, okay, I'll speak slowly then.
Anyway, getting back to the stingy.
Oh, getting back to this. No. I don't know what it is, but I was brought up in a very tight family. You know, my mother, who you know or remember,
Yes.
she sent me off to sea at 16, or I disappeared to sea at 16. But she made me pay board when I was at sea. You know, so I had to send her board, and what was it? Smart woman, yes. And I was the exact opposite. I would always buy and give, and I didn't have a stingy bone in my body. And one of the things I found out about the Christian walk is that the more you give, you know, it was one of the key lessons I learned. The more you give, especially in business, you know, the more blessed you are. Lucky. People said to Steph and I, "Oh, you guys are really lucky." We're not lucky at all. We're actually blessed, but we actually focus on being a blessing. And the first thing in the morning is the very first thing we do, if we wake up, as I say, I usually run out, go into the loo where there's a full-length mirror and check to see if nothing's dropped off during the night. But we then give thanks. You know, give thanks for good health firstly. Good health. Then we give thanks for the great place we live in. And then we offer ourselves. We say, Father God, you know, whoever you want us to be a blessing to today, we're happy to be of service to you. Now, you have to actually have that attitude in business. And we actually do that deliberately. So we're always focusing on how we can be a blessing. And, you know, and I was explaining to the DC Centre at one stage, you know, I'm walking through the airport with this lady, it was a few years ago, and she keeps disappearing on me into shops or seeing, but I turned around, she was beside a young lady who was weeping almost uncontrollably, and she brought me back. She said, "Oh, this young girl was coming from Melbourne with her best pal going off on the European holiday of their life, and on the first leg to Singapore, the friend met a brand new boyfriend and went the other way." And of course, the remaining girl just broke her heart. She said, "Well, maybe I should just go back to Melbourne and I'm not going to just chuck it all in." This one's got that hand around and said, "No, you don't. We're on the same plane. We're not going as far as you. We'll look after you. You come on this flight. And Stuart, you're sitting in economy now. So, and she gave her a fantastic pep talk. And anyway, do you want to say what happened to the rest of
That was probably 12 years ago, and we're still friends to this day. And she went on to London. She made a career for her. She got a job over there, made a career for herself. Came back to Australia, got married, had children, and we still keep in touch to this day. And it was just good to think that we encouraged her, you know, to go on her journey, not to give up, because she'd had a bit of a setback. And we encouraged her with emails and just told her not to give up. So it was good.
Well, that's part of the message, is that if you stumble in life, never give up. If you stumble in your business, or stumble with the family, or stumble in your search for God, never give up. Get up. And, you know, you're not the center of the universe. You've actually just got to get up and get on with it again. You know? And we see so many people, Christians and non-Christians, I got dealt a cruel blow, I got sent broke, or I got divorced, or whatever. That's always a sad story. Get over it. You know, get over it. Get on with it. And at that point, what I'd like everyone to do is actually put your hand under your chair and find under your chair.
Okay. Should be
Under your chair, there should be something under your chair.
That's not what we You may have dropped on the floor like below you.
Yes, there should be.
We didn't need those bits anyway.
That's right, you're supposed to get up, look under the chair.
This is where you get up. Should be under most chairs. There might be one or two chairs missing. That's right, yeah. It was meant to be under there.
Yes.
Just hold that one.
Now, this is actually a life lesson. This is a life lesson.
Some of you, sorry, very quickly, there might be a couple of people that have missed out on either the coins or a note. So,
Check the empty chair.
check the empty chairs. Yeah, if you didn't get one, there's an empty chair here, so have a look.
But this is a lesson in life. You don't get anything without getting off your backside. And then when you do get off your backside and you do get something, just because the person next door gets 5 times what you get, there is no reason to be cranky. You should just focus on what you get, on what you've got. No, like a lot of people say, oh yeah, but you know, I was at class with this guy and his dad left him a lot of money and I get nothing and I, blah, blah, blah. Again, the pity party. Just use what you've got and focus on what you have. And you can actually build from there. Don't get jealous or get bent out of shape because someone got 5 times what you did. So it's just a little funny lesson. I also gave you some rulers. Now these rulers are very special rulers. They're scale rulers. 1 to 50 and 1 to 100, so that when you're measuring your shed or, you know, designing your pergola or you're measuring your boat or your factory or whatever, it's got a scale of 1 to 100, 1 to 50. Secondly, it's a very useful tool when your partner asks for an unreasonable request, you can smack him on the wrist.
Very good. Let me ask you a question while we're talking about this then. So let me fast forward to when you actually started to actually get into business. Like where has that taken you? What's the journey with that? Stephanie, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I started work when I was 16, same as Stuart. He went off to sea and I went off into the marine industry also. So we've always been in the industry that we're in. I worked for other people for about the first 25 years, I guess, of my working career. And for the last 25 or 30, whatever it's been, we've run businesses together. So I probably come from a little different perspective to Stuart. He worked for other people, but not for as long as I did. He went off then creating his own career, his own businesses. But when we got together, we found that whilst we were reasonably successful running our own businesses individually, when we actually got together, and the fact that we were both in a Christian walk, our businesses really took off. We were much more effective, both in business and in our social life, our family life was much more effective.
Sorry, can I just jump in there on that? And why do you think that you're more effective together?
Well, I think it's a biblical principle. You know, one can put 1,000 to flight, 2 puts 10,000 to flight. The fact that we were on the same page, that we had the same principles of giving and looking out for other people, not focusing on ourselves, but focusing on other people. And we've always tried to do that. We did stumble in the early days, like lots of people stumble in business and in life. But we picked ourselves up. We picked up the Bible again, which we had put down. And for the last 25 years, we've just gone on from there. Yeah, we did. In 1989, when we had Mr. Keating's recession that we had to have, we lost everything. We lost our house, we lost our cars, everything. Stuart was on the dole. I went to work for just a company trying to earn some money. We had 4 little boys who were all at private schools. and as he likes to say, we had a big dog that ate more than the 4 boys. So, you know, we just started off, and I'll let Stuart tell the story of how we picked ourselves up. But then we bonded even tighter together, and we just went on from there. So it's been a journey of growth. It's ups and downs. Every year is an up and down. Nothing ever just keeps going up. You always have your little valleys as well as your peaks. But and we continue to learn. But we have never. We've always kept the book in our hands, and you know, kept Jesus there ahead of us. And we always say every morning that He's the Lord of our lives, the Lord of our family, the Lord of our companies. And it's been a good focus for us.
Yeah. And let me just also ask though too, I've always, when I've, from a, I guess from a, not a distance so much, but from a more objective perspective, I've looked at both of you as having different talents and abilities as well. So how does that kind of work within the scope of things?
Well, Stuart's the big picture guy. You know, he's the one. He has the vision, and you've got to have vision. Again, it's biblical. You know, through lack of vision, my people perish. So he's the visionary, and he goes out there and he puts the big picture together. And I'm the detail person. So you know, I look after the finances and looking after the creditors and the debtors and putting the paperwork, the contracts, the documentation, the legal stuff together. But he blazes the trail and I just go and pick up the pieces.
And it usually happens like this. Let's do this and this. And she says, we haven't got any money. Don't bother with details, you know. Just go and do it. You know, and people, we like to encourage people with their visions and their dreams, you know. And I always remember Sandy said to me, you know, a long time ago, I'd really like to preach a message in a church in Scotland, in one of the old churches. And we organised this, you know. And Sandy and I travelled across to Scotland, and we went to the Church of Scotland in Helensburgh, and we just purely by good fortune, we met the minister the day before, or Sandy, and so he was only going to give Sandy one song, and I think he was going to give the kids' message to me. But because he met Sandy in the street the day before, just purely a God incidence, he actually gave us a bit more. Because Sandy at the time had a lime green suit.
That's very trendy. That's very trendy.
Because he came in and the Church of Scotland, you know, Sandy says, do you like my suit? And he said, is it a suit? Is it a suit? So he did a couple of songs, I did the children's message, and then Sandy did the message, but the beetle, what was it? The beetle, that was it. The beetle is an old guy who carries the big Bible, I mean a big Bible.
Huge.
Up the stairs in this old church with the organ behind. He was having trouble getting up to the top, and of course he gets there and he opens the Bible, and then Sandy took the message, you see. And after a couple of songs, the local church was about 600, and they took us for tea afterwards. Oh, it's so nice to have you young men here from, because most of them are very elderly, widows. And do you always travel together? One of them said, oh, I said, yes. Sandy doesn't really sing, but I'm a ventriloquist. Really? Yes.
But they actually offered me to become the youth pastor there, which I thought was quite funny in itself, because I think I was the youngest person that was there. It was an interesting group of people. But I'd say something funny about that was that when I walked out the front door, it was the most embarrassing thing in the whole world. It's because I had this 15-minute window to speak, and at the end of when I spoke, and I came out to the front door and we were greeting people as they left. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And the Reverend was standing across the other side from me here on that side of the door, say where Stephanie is and I'm here. And he was standing there greeting people, and all these people were walking up to me saying, that's the best message we've ever heard. That's the best. That's the best. And it's like, I'm going, oh my God, that's terrible. It was anyway, it was funny afterwards.
Yes. But we're here to try and help anyone. And we come across But you have to, what we say to business people, you have to look at the opportunities in this. It's like the Good Samaritan, You always have to look at the opportunities. Even if you're running late for a plane and, somebody's broken, you've got to stop and be a blessing. And to be a blessing is to be a blessing when it doesn't suit you. And, it's not always when it suits you or, when you have the money. It's always when, stretch that extra mile. And, the art cards are terrific when you pass an art card and, if you're doing a favor for someone, say, well, here's, and they sit back and afterwards, and that was a great marketing thing. For God, it was a great marketing thing. But Steph is lots of people ring us up because they know we're givers. So, Steph, how do you discern who to give?
Well, it says, again, biblically, I think it says, giving to good works, all good works and charitable donations, something like that. So if most of the charities, all the good works we do give to, we don't give to things like, as you like to say, the left-hand lesbian association.
Lesbian stuff.
So, I give to, from all of our companies, we give to everything. But if I can just say something here about the early days of Barn for Side. Stuart and I were personally involved. Right
This is
at
the
very,
orphanage in Thailand,
yeah, this
right?
is the orphanage. We were personally involved right at the very start of this, even I think before Phil and Wendy went over there. And we've always supported that ministry. And we've been over and have seen for ourselves the fantastic work that they do over there. So I can only encourage everyone to help support that particular ministry. It is fantastic. And it's our privilege still to be supporting them to this day. We haven't made a second trip back yet, and I still want to do that. It's on the bucket list. Got this enormous bucket list.
You come in February, don't you?
Love to. Love to. So yeah, it is. They do good works, and they work very hard. And you can, when you see the children, you see the atmosphere that has been created for these children to grow up in, a safe atmosphere. They're raised as Christian kids. You can only imagine the good works that each one of those children are going to go out and do, the influence that they're going to have on their communities. So it's fantastic.
Can I just say something if you're starting a business? I was talking to Denzel there before, and he's talking about branching out and doing his own thing. And anyone, it doesn't matter your age or how talented you are, one of the first things you should do in business is learn how to give. Even when you've got next to nothing, learn how to give, but also give money and your time. Because your time is your money, and your money is your time. And I can tell you that our company, just as a service company, just ran along pretty easy-ozy until we actually got the giving message, when we started giving seriously. Where it actually, instead of giving, checks for $100 or $200 or $300, we started giving checks for $5,000 and $10,000, which for a service company at the time was a lot. But we were challenged to give it, and then we saw results because we stepped outside our comfort zone. And I always say to businessmen, any business. In fact, the guy who runs the, I think it's Autobahn or Super Cheap Autobahn or something. He's a Italian, and he's non-Christian, but he got a hold of one of my tapes where I was talking about giving, and he started giving, and every time I see him, he said, that was a great message, and I'm giving to so-and-so, and my business is going just great. He said, when are you coming to church? He said, oh, I don't go, but my daughter-in-law goes now. But even that episode was
Wow.
good seed.
Can you give us a couple of examples then of some of the things that you have done? Not from the point of view of, this is what I've done, look at me kind of thing, but just from the point of view of what you felt that has been, because the Bible talks about sowing and reaping, the concept of sowing and reaping. So how do you find that has worked? Like, can you give us a couple of examples on that?
We found that it didn't work straight away. So in other words, when we got the sowing message and we started sowing, but it was at least 6 months before we saw, it's not like if we gave a check today, we saw it the next week. It was actually 6 months before, tick, 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 tick. But we kept on sowing and sowing and sowing, and then it started taking off. And even once I had people say, "Oh, have you ever seen the 100-fold return?" I said, "Yes, I have." And it was a cash thing that I'd given away $50 because that was all I had in my wallet. And so a hitchhiker, I was going down to Ballina, and he was telling me a story, split up with his wife or something, and had all these bags. I gave him a lift, and I said, "If you want your life to turn around, you've got to learn how to give." And I says, "No, I'm going to give you $50. That's all I've got, but I said, I want you to sow half of that." Anyway, so I waved goodbye. That night, Bruce Harris, who's an old pal of mine, he says, "Oh," he said, "you lent me a mold last year. Here's $5,000 for that." So in one day I saw that. But that doesn't happen that way. But when people say, "Well, if you had the 100-fold return," financially, once, or in fact several times, but not straight away. But we've had our kids in a car accident, for instance, with Steph's mum, and they got T-boned, and when they were all small, and not one of them came out with a scratch. You know? And to me, that's a 100-fold return, because, and the word says, you know, the prayers of a righteous person availeth much. Now, we can't look after our kids all the time, and there's a lot of evil and bad stuff out there. We've got to surround them with prayer. And if we're walking in the Word and we surround our kids every day in prayer, because our kids are flying around the place and going on, and there is so much evil, we have to protect them. And that's part of the covenant. It's part of the covenant of success. That's why we like the Word. It's a covenant of success.
I agree. I'm glad you agree. This is a good thing.
I mean, you can't say no. As Stuart said, we pray, we dedicate the day every day, and we also then thank at the end of every day for what's happened, and always in prayer, always covering our kids, and asking to be a blessing to people that we meet, but also for them to be a blessing to people that they meet, and that they can be effective. So you have to continue it on.
Yes, but it sees on the Word, and if two agree on anything, you know, it says in Matthew 18:19, that a guy rang me from Fiji, a Christian guy, Paul McCulloch, and says, "Oh, you know, the bank's moving against me. They're coming in to serve notice on me today, and, you know, blah, 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 blah." I said, "Paul," I said, "hang on a minute. We've got the success book. God says He'll look after us." And if two of us, and we said, "Father God, over the airways of the world, we thank You for being Lord of our lives. And Father, when this bank turns up, they're going to give Paul a great offer. We're going to change it all around, and we declare this in Jesus' name." You know? Oh, he said, "Oh, thanks, Stu. We'll need that." The bank comes in 4 hours later and says, "Oh, look, we've reconsidered this, and we'll do a structured payment starting with $1, and we'll sign the documents and turn the whole thing around." And he came back and said, "You're not going to believe this." I said, "Yes, I am going to believe it." And we've seen that happen time and time and time again. And it's, you know, that when people say, "Oh," to Steph and I, "Do you think God and, you know, Jesus are alive?" No, we don't think that. We know that. We live it. We live it. And when we share the Word with other business people, listen, if you want your business to crank up, we'll tell you how to crank it up, you know. But to mix with good people. Now, what we do is that we're always in church on Sunday morning. Quite often we're overseas, but we're always in a church on Sunday, unless we're flying. And in church we get the gems. The gems that see us through dealing the other 6 days of the week with the Philistines. And because, you know, there's banks, there's lawyers, there's legal cases, there's, you know, just, it goes on and on and on. But you really have to have that great attitude and say, well, look, you know, we talked about the other day with Aidan and young Aidan Gilchrist, and they got engaged on our boat, Lucy. And of course, Lucy, I was on the far part of the boat, but she did this, you know, like these engaged girls do, you know, and the only thing you're supposed to say, go, "Wow, wow," you see, and girls always do that. "Oh, wow," oh, wow, engagement rings and eternity rings and everything else. Us guys don't do that, but I have a wow. I have a collection of wow. You know, because when I'm sitting in and I'm listening to a good pastor, a guy that's switched on, and he explains something, and I underline it in the Bible and go, wow, I didn't see that. And one of them was, in all circumstances, give praise. I've forgotten the scripture, but in everything, give thanks. And I get sacked when I was rebuilding the company from a crash and burn. And we got sacked, we got laid off. And I came out of the place where I got sacked in Sydney, and I had 6 guys working with me, and I was concerned about them and their families. And I came out, it was raining, I was trying to get a taxi in Pitt Street, and I said, Father God, I don't know what happened there, but I give you all the praise and glory, and thank you for, thank you for this. You've got something better in mind. And we were working with just one company. It was only one client that we had, which is not a good thing. And anyway, through a series of circumstances, I won't get to the story, but 3 weeks later, that was turned totally around. I used all of my frequent flyer points, again, focusing on what you have, and I had about 1.5 million frequent flyer points, sort of dotted all around the world for about 25 days, visiting clients. And I was given the contract that I was working with the guys in Sydney. I was given that contract, and they were then servant to me. And had I railed against God, I wouldn't have got it. If I next come and say, hey, God, what's the deal here? I'm on your team and you're supposed to be on my team. How come I got the sack? I used my wow thing that I get from people like Pastor Sandy. My wow, because it's all highlighted, and like diamonds, I've got them highlighted in different colours. But they're my wow moments. And I tell you, when you use those wow moments in your life and in your business and your family, it really is going, wow, and they come to life. It's fantastic.
That's great. That's great. Stephanie, can you just give us a couple of points on what you feel are important in leadership in business?
Well, I can only speak from my experience. So when Stuart and I got together, and we were running independent businesses, and we decided to merge our businesses and then go on that way. Because I'd been a career person, and I was very independent, and I had a fairly strong will. And he's very much the same. I could see that there were going to be some problems in the future. So I made the mistake of saying to him in the early days, don't let me be bossy.
I have to bring it up all the time.
Don't let me be bossy.
You said.
So, and I said, and we agreed at that point that whilst we were both decision makers and we would agree on things, if it came to an impasse and we couldn't agree on something, that he being the head of the family, he would get the call in business and in our family life. Because you can't have an impasse, you have to have someone make the final decision. So we had that agreement, and we have found now for the last 25, 30 years that that's really worked for us. So leadership in this case for us, it's a joint thing, but I have given Stuart the authority
It's very scary.
to make the final decision if we have an impasse. Generally, we don't very often have an impasse, but sometimes we do. So, and then I have great delight if it doesn't go the way. In not saying I told you so. In not saying I told you so. Leadership really, I think, comes back to leading by example, giving people a position or delegating something, and allowing them to see it through, and telling them to come to you only if they have a problem. So I think you must allow people to do the job that you've delegated to them, much as you want to step in and do it, because you've in your own business you've done it all. So you must be able to let them work through that themselves and only come to you if they can't make it work. Oh my gosh. Yeah, and as I said, leading by example, really. And our example is just to try and help people, to tell people that they must look for other people to help, mustn't focus on themselves, but must look at focusing on other people. So.
That's right.
That's good.
You've heard the practical, the theoretical side, that I'm the boss. And for you guys, later on I can show you my knife wounds, the stab wounds. No, we have a deal that we said, look, any decision that side of the high water mark, it's mine, and this side of the high water mark, it's Steph, on general things. But then if we would combine things, I get the decision. But one of the things that we also focus on is having fun. You know, you really have to deliberately go out of your way to have some fun. You know? And we always focus on having a bit of fun. And I'll give you an example. We rang out 4 boys about probably 8 or 9 years ago. I said, guys, we've got some serious things to talk about.
Who will we ask? I had nothing
Oh,
to do with
so guys, we've got some serious stuff that we've got to speak to. We can't do this by phone or Skype or anything. You have to come. We get some support. Of course, immediately think, oh, it's medical things. It's something to do with the inheritance of, so they flew from all different parts of Australia. We take them down to the little restaurant below my office and my guys, okay, this is very, very, very serious. We're not your real parents. Is that it? That's it. We just wanted to make sure you came here and enjoyed a good meal. So we had to give you something that
We wanted to make sure they paid their own way. Their own effort.
So for you parents that want to get your kids back, always, there was an old Scottish story about the Scotsman who rang his daughter in London and said, that's it, 3 days to Christmas, and I've had enough of your mother. I'm leaving, I'm going to leave her before Christmas, and I've had it up to here. And don't you tell your brother, just don't you move, do not do a thing, you just sit where you are, you don't make any decision. My brother and myself will come up and see you, and just don't do anything. So he puts down the phone and said, that's great. He said, they're coming home for Christmas and they're paying their own way. No, but have fun. It shouldn't be taken so seriously, that we think the important thing is actually health. People say, oh, is it money? No, it's not money, it's actually good health. Walt Disney, when he died, he was the richest guy on the planet. He wanted to give it all for 1 more year, so good health is that's a terrific thing,
Good. All right, let's let's open it up for some questions now. We've heard lots from Stuart and Steph. Have you enjoyed that so far?
Yeah.
Great. Any questions that you'd like to ask about anything? This is from Stephanie's mouth earlier. Ask any questions you like. She said, ask any questions you like. So go ahead if you've got any questions about business or your business or something that might help you with what's going on. Yes, Don.
Should you borrow to invest?
Should you borrow to invest?
And detail.
Personally, I wouldn't. We don't like to borrow if we can help it. Having been burnt very badly back in 1989, when we missed bankruptcy by an inch. And,
I went bankrupt
in
89.
Yeah, well, we didn't go bankrupt. We missed that because we had good relationship with creditors and so on. But the bank took everything that was, as you heard, took everything that we had. So we don't like to borrow. We don't like to owe anyone any money because then you're always at risk. No matter how good your assets are, you're always at risk if things go bad. So I wouldn't personally. What do you think, Steve?
Is there any bank managers here? No? I've got a favourite bank manager story. There is an ex-bank manager. Well, the guy goes in at 10 o'clock. He said, I'm here for my 10 o'clock meeting with the bank managers. And the girl says, I'm sorry, but the bank manager 10 minutes ago had an excruciating heart attack and he died. Oh. So he goes out the bank, comes 10 minutes later, he says, all right, if I meet with the bank manager now? She said, he's had an excruciating heart attack and he's died. Oh. So he goes out. He repeats this 6 times and he comes back at the 6th time. He says, all right, if I meet with the bank manager. She said, listen you, I have told you 6 times that he's had an excruciating heart attack and he's died. He said, yeah, but I just love hearing it. So I'll answer the question. Banks are, they will lend you the umbrella until it rains. But that's true, they will lend. So if you can stay out, you become the servant of the lender. You become the servant. And the question, to answer, yes, we do have debt, and we have had a war on debt since Pastor Rod declared the war on debt. We've had a war on debt, and we've reduced our debt by 1/3. So we've got 2/3 to go, and we're not taking any more debt. Well, you actually can't get it at the moment anyway, but the conditions that they put on are unreasonable. They want your kids, your grandkids, and everything else. And what we recommend to any business people, Christian and non-Christian, we always recommend the same. Try and vendor's terms if you can. Vendor's terms is a great way of acquiring an asset without putting everything on exposure. So in other words, and to give you an example, how we came out of absolute zero start, we were both 42 years old, we lost everything, and a guy came to me and said, oh, you wanted to buy my company, it's still available, it's $1 million. Of course, I'm on the dole, and we're in a rented house at Eagleby, up near Beaverley. We got a rented ute, and the 4 boys in the back of the ute, and Steph said, this is illegal. I said, what can they take from us? Something take from us. Anyway, so what we did, I said, well, I couldn't get a job. It was, one of those labour times where nobody was employing and everything else. And so I thought, these guys are still at school. We were out of money, and because I couldn't get a job, I went back to this guy, and we borrowed from Steph's relatives, mine were too poor, $9,000. And again, we were in prayer about this, and I went to the guy and I said, I'll give you $9,000 deposit for your company, wanted $1 million. And I will pay you, I'll take over tomorrow, and I will pay you $1,862 a week for the next 8.5 years. Because out of the cash flow. And he went, oh, how much interest is that? I said, well, there's actually no interest in it because the boats are terrible, you've had a sinking lately, you've got a terrible reputation, but it's a good deal for you because you'll never get rid of it. So we accepted that deal, so $9,000 deposit, and we found that this business was actually a terrific cash flow business. This guy had all sorts of weird side deals going. I'll give you an example. On the second day of taking over this little barge, we're driving a barge around Russell Island, Macleay, Carragara, and I'm the skipper. Stephanie's the deckhand. We got 12 or 15 cars on deck. And this lady came up to me. This is an example of how the perks this guy had. And this mid-40s, quite attractive lady came up to the wheelhouse and said, are you the new owner? I said, I am. And she looked me up now, she said, you'll do. I said, what do you mean? She says, well, the previous owner, he let me and my car come on for nothing whenever I liked, and he'd come across to my place on Macleay Island on a Wednesday afternoon, we'd have a bit of whoopee. And of course, I said, oh, well, that's all right with me. I said, but you've got to ask her down here. She says, who's that? I said, that's my missus. And she doesn't like that sort of thing. She'll probably stab you and me. It's just cash. You've got to pay your way, because I told Steph. And every time that woman came on board, Steph would go, left hand down a bit, bang, oh, sorry about that. Hell knows no fury like a woman's stomach. And then we had the concrete guys coming on and said, well, where do you want your concrete? I said, what do you mean? He said, oh, I had a deal with Bill. If if you let my concrete trucks travel for nothing, I'd give him some concrete around the place. So I said, no, it's cash. But we got rid of all these perks, and it was a fantastic cash flow business. So we were restored by the grace of God, from a $14 million cap down to -3 million, and propelled back up in 3 years. But again, by tithing, sticking to the word.
And doing the honest thing, not doing anything dishonest, but being honest with everything that we did. So really paid off.
So if you can go, there's a lot of businesses being sold at the moment on vendor stuff because people just can't get the money. Well, you can get the money, but it's unreasonable.
Yeah.
It's unreasonable conditions. Good question.
Thank you. Any more questions? Yes, Brett?
I know you guys are, one of the best givers I've seen, and you give from the heart. But just touching on that earlier question, how did you discern who to give to? Because I know you're probably approached all the time by all the stories.
So the question is, how do you discern who you give to?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, they have to. It's usually the known charities that we give to. The people that ring you all the time asking for money, we give to all of those. But except the silly ones that I've just made up there. And also things like the orphanages, Salvation Army, obviously, we give to, the Deaf Society, we just give to everything. We're not discerning in that respect. We don't filter them out. We don't say, oh yes, well we'll give to this one and not to that one. What we do generally, and we get probably 5 or 6 phone calls a week, and I've now got to deal with all of them where I say, we will support you on your second appeal, everything that you do. So they might ring, say, 6 times a year or 12 times a year. So every second appeal, we will support you. Therefore, we can spread it around for everyone. And we don't give huge amounts to all of these, but we do support all of them. So that's how we do it.
But our home church gets most.
Oh, of course, our home church, we support greatly, of course, but I'm just talking about the general charities, the people that ring you. Is that who you're talking about mainly?
No, just if you feel there's somebody in need or...
And you're talking an individual person as opposed to a charity?
Yeah.
Again, we have to look at that on its merits, and it's where our heart leads us, And people say, well, I wouldn't have given money to that person, you don't know what they're going to do with it. But that's not our business to know what they're going to do with it. Our business is to acknowledge the need that they've put out there, and if we're comfortable with it and we give money to them, then the rest is up to them. We've done our bit. We've done what God called us to do, and that's to be helpful to people and to support them.
I'll just add on to that one there. We occasionally get outside left field calls. There was one guy we were supporting, and he'd ring up from Johannesburg and say, I'm out here doing, and I'm totally out of money. Can you kick me an airfare? But we have a budget every month. We budget our giving, and of course this guy said, well, can you send me $5,000? And of course it means that somebody else is going to miss out for that month. And we like to be, Steph likes to be organized and ordered. One of the big challenges that we had in our giving is that we were supporting a church person who was doing the wrong thing by the money. We found out afterwards. And of course I became all incensed about this, and I was going to report him to the press and blah, 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 blah. And a number of pastors came forward to me and said, don't do this. I said, yeah, but we're giving for sort of charity work, and we find out afterwards he's investing in gold and this and that and the other, and this is... And then one of them, in fact it was Doug Whittaker, said to me, Stuart, in any of this situation, in the last 2 years, during your giving, where the money didn't go where you thought it would, did God not bless you? I said, no. He said, your job is the giving, what somebody else, if someone else decides to cheat with that money afterwards, it's not your concern. Because your job is just to give, you know. So, and that was a real lesson to me. It was, and I'd encourage any of you who are sort of caught with the same, you know, where somebody says, "Oh, don't give it to him because we have a." If your heart is that way, you have to do that and surrender to what God leads us in all sorts of. I mean, we find ourselves helping all sorts of strange situations. That's a good question.
All right, we'll make maybe 2 more questions, and then we'll finish it up around about the 9 o'clock mark. Any other questions, please? Yes, Tony.
Yeah. It's a question more for Stephanie, I guess, in this, and I know she'll chime in with something. But just we obviously you look and take your admin and detail and that sort of things, but also I know Stuart talked about the time that you give, and I know that you obviously have children, you know, I've grown up now, but you've had to deal with obviously the day-to-day running a family and all the things that come with that we can all relate to. And so how do you, because I know you're very successful in all the things that you do, you've always come and supported us when we've been in ministry and so forth as well, so you're a great giver with your time. How do you bring all that together? Because, you know, people get tired, have all sorts of things that happen, so if you can...
Probably 4 hours sleep a night's all I need for a start. No, you know, in the early days, when Stuart and I were recovering from our financial crisis that we had these 4 little boys at school, and we were both working 7 days a week. I can only say that, you know, my mum and dad really raised our children for us. And whilst I look back now and think that's probably a sad admittance, but it's the truth. So whilst we were there always at night time for the kids and to do their homework, I wasn't always there to take them to school, and it's a sacrifice that we had to make, consciously a sacrifice. So I'm not saying that that's what you should do or anyone should do that nowadays, but to start again from where we were, which was almost $3 million in debt, and to have any hope of paying off that debt so that we didn't go bankrupt, and to maintain our good standing in the industry that we were both well known in. Because, you know, good standing with your peers is very important. So that's the sacrifice that we had to make. So, and apart from that, apart from Mum and Dad helping us out, and I think it was about 7 years before we even had a day off. We worked 7 days a week, and Stuart still works 7 days a week. He just can't stop working anyway. But time management, yeah, the busier you are, strangely enough, the better your time management is. It has to be. You can't operate any other way. So you don't always get the holidays or the free time that you want, but we're kind of trying to make up for that now. We travel together as much as possible.
I'll just add on to that, because Steph really carried the load, because in fact, most of my work is overseas. So what I would do is I'd jump on a plane on a Monday, and I would go to, say, Hong Kong, UK, the States, and back. I'd go around the world in 11 days, of which 4 or 5 nights I would sleep in aeroplanes. Okay, and I had this perfected. So I'd get back on a week on Friday. And Steph, at the same time, we had an open door policy that our boys managed to pick up some friends at school whose parents had split up, and you know, there was an open door policy. Steph said, come in. So I'd arrive a week on Friday and come in the door, and you know, some little kid would say to me, "Who are you?" I said, "Well, who are you?" "Oh, I live here now." I said, "Oh, that's great." So we had an open door policy, and we ended up with actually 3 other young guys who were at our house more often than they were at their own place. And when those 3 guys got married, we got invited to the wedding, and they paid tribute to their mum and dad, us, which is a great tribute for us. But all of that time that we still gave them a lot of time, but it wasn't as much as what we wanted to do. Anyways.
So the secret's to be, the busier you are, the better time manager you are. That's what I believe. It's just a natural thing. You have to be, else you can't do everything. Does that answer the question? Not really.
Either way. That's all right. One more question? Yes, Miriam.
My question is, as a woman and a wife, how important is the role supporting your partner, your husband, in a business decision? Is that more powerful to support your partner?
Well, I think it is. I think I like to think that I've always supported. Well, we've always supported each other, but yes, I do support him, and it is powerful. And I think it portrays, as a business couple, I think people see us more as a strong team. The fact that I do support Stuart, and that when he does come up with some of his crazy ideas, I still support him. So it's important that the wife support the husband. We again work on the business principle of that the man is the head of the house. So it took me a little while to recognise that. No, I shouldn't say that. It didn't take me a while to recognise it. It took me
you a long time.
It took, yes. I'm still getting there.
Let's be honest.
But not even to accept. Well, maybe to accept it, but to keep living that. You know, because it's, when you've been independent and you've been strong-willed, and I ran my own business long before we got together, and so it is difficult to turn that around, where you appear as you're a couple and you're a team and you're both strong, but underneath I still support Stuart, yes.
But in business dinners and things like that, we found that if we invited some of our clients to business, we'd invite them and their wives to, and then I tell you, that's an amazing thing, because in business, it's not always about the cheapest price, or you know, it's whether you trust the guy. Whether when things go wrong, he's going to turn up and fix it. You know? It's always about trust. And when we meet people that we're going to do business, we actually like to meet the guy and his wife, or if she's the boss, we'd like to meet the couple. We actually want to deal with the couple, because then we've got a measure of what type of people they are.
And their unity.
And we've seen some people that we thought were okay, but they were totally unhinged in their marriage, and they actually turned out bad to do business with. So I think it's very important that you're actually got a good unity, but it's a good question.
It's a very good question. Final question? Going once? Going twice? Going 3 times. Let's give them a big hand. We're very, very, very thankful for Stuart and Stephanie coming today and sharing with us on our. I think it's great to have them in our very first business network for up here for Dream Centre North, which is very good. We just want to give you a token of our appreciation. It's a record player. So we just wanted to thank you so much for the time that you've taken. I know that you guys are extremely busy with many things, but as you say, sometimes the busy people are the ones that you want to get hold of. You know, we just want to again thank you so much for the input that you've had today, and of course, one thing from here on in, if I dare say it, is if people had any questions, could they perhaps email me through and ask those questions, or however that works for you? What would suit you if people have questions thereafter?
Just zap it through on email to us.
They can give our cards if you want them to.
Whatever you like, yeah, whatever suits for you guys. But you know, you might walk away from here today and go, gee, I wonder what they did for such and such, or you know, those kinds of questions. Or any just general sort of encouragement that you may need in your business at that moment. These guys have been terrific, and I know that, as I said, you know, we've been to Scotland together and done things, and Stuart and Stephanie have been great encouragement for Glenys and I. We thank you from our hearts, you know, personally as well as obviously in a church setting. So we appreciate them very much. Just one more minute.